When you think about AC/DC, you think about catchy riffs, power, thunder, and a guy in his cool uniform sprinting across the stage like he just stole your amp. But where did Angus Young's iconic stage presence actually come from? Well, in honor of Angus's 70th birthday, which, by the way, happy birthday, Angus! Let's talk about the real story behind his famous duckwalk and where it actually came from, and then discuss how those moves redefined what it meant to be a frontman in hard rock and heavy metal. Here you go. Long before AC/DC conquered the world, Angus Young was just a scrawny teenager with a guitar, a ton of energy, and a deep obsession with early rock and roll. Now, most AC/DC fans of course do know that Angus credits Chuck Berry as one of his main inspirations, and not only musically, but physically as well, as Chuck's legendary duckwalk left a huge impression on the young Angus, and he ran with it. Literally.
Have you ever seen legs like this?
But if we're being very honest, Chuck Berry wasn't really the first person who introduced the legendary move. The origins of duckwalk and rock and roll go all the way back to the early days of American show business, back when it was only getting shaped by blues, gospel, and vernacular dance craze. Long before rock and roll took center stage, blues guitarist T-Bone Walker was already captivating audiences with his dynamic performances. In fact, he was actually considered to be one of the first popular guitarists to introduce theatrical elements into his craft. And in the 1930s, Walker became renowned for his charismatic stage presence, often playing his guitar behind his head, executing splits, and even using his teeth to pluck the strings. And these theatrical antiques weren't just for a show, they were integral to his musical expression, adding a visual flair that mesmerized audiences, most of whom didn't see anything like that before. And his influence was so profound that legends like Chuck Berry and Jimi Hendrix adopted some of the elements of his style, including some of the moves, very similar to Chuck Berry's duckwalk, which would come only 20 years later. Fast forward to several years later, to the time when Sister Rosetta Tharpe, a trailblazing guitarist and singer whose impact on rock and roll music is immeasurable, was seamlessly blending gospel and rhythmic guitar work that laid the foundations for rock and roll. Her energetic performances and innovative guitar techniques inspired countless musicians, and even Chuck Berry himself once said that his entire career was one long Sister Rosetta Tharpe impersonation. And yes, her stage presence and musical prowess not only challenged the norms of her time, but also paved the way to most of the rock and roll movements of the 1970s, which of course eventually laid the foundations for all of our favorite metal acts. Now, here I have to point out that we can of course continue digging even deeper and go as far as remembering the early 20th minstrel performances, which, according to the manuscripts of old, included, and I'm quoting here, a lot of rock and roll duckwalks and moves. But I don't think that it would be needed here, especially since this episode is actually dedicated to Angus Young, who lived long after that. And as in all fairness, while all of those earlier performances introduced dynamic movements into their acts, including the duckwalk as we know it today, it was actually Chuck Berry who brought it into the mainstream consciousness, making it truly his own. Of course, after he got the idea from his uncle, who saw Marty McFly, better known as Calvin Klein, doing it at a high school dance.
Chuck, it's Marvin! Your cousin, Marvin Berry! You know that new sound you looking for? Well, listen to this!
But anyways, in 1955, during a performance in New York, Berry employed the very first recorded duckwalk, which, according to some of his early interviews, he reportedly did to hide the wrinkles on his suit.
No, baby, you can't get me.
And that move did not only entertain, but simply captivated the audiences, eventually becoming the trademark move of Chuck Berry, resulting to Berry incorporating the duckwalk into his regular act, solidifying its place in rock and roll history, and eventually influencing countless artists, including, of course, the legendary Angus Young. The craziest thing is that Angus didn't just copy Chuck's move, he turbocharged it. While Chuck Berry used the duckwalk as a cool bluesy strut, a bit of a stage flair, Angus made it something else entirely. On an AC/DC stage, it is a war paint, it is a signal flare, it is a pure electricity in motion. What started as a nod to one of rock and roll's pioneers became a signature weapon. Angus didn't just duckwalk in place, he sprinted across entire stadiums, duckwalking from one end of the stage to another, picking up speed, ripping solos while nearly falling over. And the craziest thing is that he still does that today, while being 70 freaking years old. For AC/DC, Angus's duckwalk became more than just a gimmick. It became a symbol of the band's raw energy and attitude. A reminder that when AC/DC go up on stage, it isn't some sterile, choreographed performance. It is primal, loud, wild, and real. And the thing is that AC/DC is one of those bands that never really had a mascot for one simple reason. I believe that they never needed it, specifically because they had Angus Young, a schoolboy turned demon, possessed by the very spirit of rock and roll, running around the stage in his school uniform and doing crazy things, whether it was duckwalks, spasms, call-ups, or even striptease, all of which he of course could allow himself to do because of a solid wall behind him, built by the no less legendary Malcolm Young. But the thing is that those Angus's moves actually became something much more than simply the trademark visuals for every AC/DC show. In a way, they somewhat reshaped the way rock and metal bands behave on stage. In many bands before AC/DC, the vocalist alone bore the burden of energizing the crowd. But with Angus and AC/DC, the guitarist became equally responsible, showing that every band member has to play his part in creating a show for the crowd, and that visuals are just as important as the sound itself. In a way, with these moves borrowed from Chuck Berry, Angus somewhat infused back the early energy of rock and roll into the 70s style rock, and together with some other bands created a golden standard for what a good rock and metal performance should look like, which we still use today in 2025. But anyways, what do you guys personally think about Angus Young's signature moves? And what do you think about AC/DC overall? Please let us know in the comments. And hey, don't forget to greet the legendary Angus Young with his 70th birthday. But as always, thank you so much for watching this short video, guys, and we will prevail. Slava Ukraini!